Here we go. Got a rock and roll just before the storm. Really looks like there's a storm coming, but you never know. He might pass by. Sometimes it just passes by, you know. It's just announced, but the clouds, you never know. And I gotta be in and out because, of course, my anonymous friend, of course, came and had trouble to find the keys. Look at this beautiful garden. Love those yellow flowers, and have to be back. Back in and out. Look at these beautiful flowers there as we go. Always for the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the electricians, and I'm just going to get an adapter, so I have to be back like in an hour and a half before she's back, I guess, you know. Look at you, squirrel. So this is the 2nd March. Actually, earlier I finished doing the laundry. It's really dried really fast. Usually it doesn't dry that fast, you know. So it takes more time to dry usually. But now it just dried really fast, and it took some time, and got some trash to put here, and there's some shoes there. Somebody left some shoes, but I don't need now. I have everything I need, and I gotta turn my head left and right here because sometimes in my neighborhood they don't know if it's a one way, and they come from that side, and you know how I rock and roll it always for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the electricians, the firefighters. Oh, there I hear the thunder. My uncle, brother, uncle. Voice in the heavens, thunderstruck, lightning. That rock and roll is what I got. Always rock and rolling, always geopolitics, and it's gonna be an hour in and out because I'm gonna go to get the adapter finally for the phone because I've been using my anonymous friends, and my anonymous friend had to go to drop something because she had a deadline, and I made my deadline for today earlier this morning to go do my laundry, which I'm grateful and I'm pretty happy about. And I got a few deadlines coming. 24th of July and September 11th. So I extended it from July 1st. It's been 11 years since I moved where I live now. Wow, I can't believe it's been 11 years. And that's how I rock and roll it. And it seems like a storm is coming with some rain. That means I won't have to water the plants after sunset. So it was a little bit of a garden, which I'm grateful for. These beautiful yellows, and always doing some math. You know, there's always mathematics. Look at the twins. Always some mathematics in my head going on. Percentages, ratios, and percentages and ratios and all those dynamics, you know, which are counterposition in the dynamics that exist, and always there's a fluctuation and an addition and a subtraction, and there's math everywhere, as I say it, until you see it. And sometimes I clarify what I mean by doing some actual practical math, and I ask if do you see it now? And for example, every car in motion now adds a distance, you know. Every car in motion now adds a distance to its, if it's in motion right across Canada, United States, every car will add a certain mileage, 5 meters, 10, until it gets to 1,000 meters, and that is 1 kilometer. For example, look at this car, I kind of estimate that every other second it adds 5 meters, and plus another 5, that's 10, plus another 5, 15, and until it adds to 1,000, that will be the equivalent of 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer. And thus, it also consumes gas. So there's always a minus and a plus in the mathematical subtraction or addition that every car in motion has, whether the consumption from the gas tank, whether it's gas, or if it's electric, then it will be electricity from the battery. So there's math everywhere, but you might not be able to see it. For example, I know that this one is electric because it's green. The plates are green. When they're green, it's electric. But it will have a consumption rate per hour per 100 kilometers, or the consumption rate per gas. The consumption rate for this car and that car could vary from car to car. This one could be 7. This one could be 6.6. The other one could be 8.4. The other one could be 8.5, and so on. All cars have a consumption rate, whether electricity or gas, right? So in order for these cars, wherever they came here for the soccer, to the stadium, however miles and kilometers they traversed, they consumed an exact amount of gas. 2 liters, 2.5, 1.56, 3 liters, depending on where they came from. The island of Montreal to get here, maybe they only had 10, 15, 20 kilometers. Then it's not that much. It's a liter or 2 liters, depending on their gas consumption once again. So that's precise. We can calculate that precisely, and there's always these estimations. Of course, I don't know the whole. For example, I don't know where this car came from or that car came from, but this mathematics exists. The mathematics exists, right? All this mathematics exists in real time. So mathematics is all around us. When I say, do you see it now? All these cars will add up to a certain mileage, to a certain mileage. Or of course, all this certain mileage will be added all together for them to be a compendium of today's mileage until midnight, let's say. Maybe this car will go have a burger after, or whatever meal. It will take a detour. When it goes back home, 25 kilometers. If its consumption rate, well, that one's electric, so let's take another one. If its consumption rate is 8 liters per 100 kilometers, and it's 25 kilometers that will go home from here, while taking a detour, that's 100 divided by 25 is 4. So thus we divide 8 by 4. So that will mean that the car will consume, if 8 is the consumption rate per 100 kilometers, that means that we divide by 4, right? So it's 2 liters. So all these mathematics, these probabilities, they're always a constant in my mind. Of course, it's estimations. It's not really speculations. Speculation can be something parallel but different. I can speculate, but I'm more estimating. So it's a little bit of each sometime, depending on the precision on exactly what I'm discussing for. Because it's not speculation for me to say that the car is always adding mileage now when it's in motion. That's a mathematical reality. That's not speculative. Right? That's precise science and mathematics. That's not speculation. Now, this car, if I say, maybe this car will go 20 kilometers or 50 or 44, that will be more on the speculation side. But when I estimate its consumption rate and do the math in proportion, that's more of an estimation. So also the language for us Aspies, because I have Asperger's syndrome, sometimes has to be more precise and direct and straightforward because our brains are different, Aspie brains. People are AS like myself with Asperger's syndrome, which is not a disease, not an illness, it's not a disease. We are different and we see the world basically fundamentally differently. We process information differently. Sometimes it takes more time to process certain information, and especially when it relates to language, certain things. I've improved certainly in social skills. This has been a heaven sent. I gotta mention this book because it has been a heaven sent. A supportive and practical guide for anyone with Asperger's syndrome. A supportive and practical guide for anyone with Asperger's syndrome. Thank you to my anonymous friend. If I make $1 million, $1 or $2 trillion, I'm gonna give her half, and that's of course what we had, of course, to correlate, and that is a heaven sent for me. And also, I recommend the book Teaching Asperger's. Well, actually, I recommend Appreciating Asperger's. So look at those flowers, aren't they super nice? Appreciating Asperger's syndrome. Also, the third book which I recommend, Teaching Asperger's Students Social Skills Through Acting. All the world is a stage. Teaching Asperger's Students Social Skills Through Acting. All the world is a stage. Teaching Asperger's Students Social Skills Through Acting. All the world is a stage. Look at those beautiful flowers. Just so refreshing, I just love them. I love the thickness of them, and they have that puffiness. Just refreshing. By the way, it feels like 44, It feels like 44 today and another until Saturday. Sunday is gonna be a bit easier. I don't mind it that much. It's just you gotta stay hydrated, and it's really hot, heat wave. Tomorrow's gonna be another scorcher. I saw 33, and they said on the TV that it feels like 44. It's rare that I don't remember. Maybe a few years ago, not a heat wave like this, early July, but feeling like 44. Just very rare. Very rare. Even some places was 45, 46, 47. Close to Ontario by the Ontario Way, and There's always math, right? For example, you look at those towers there, right? Every cell phone, those towers are basically, our phones are basically like computers, both like smartphones, like working now, are both basically computers and radios in many ways, because the radio waves is that converted data, right? The digital data for us to log in or go into the internet, to go surf the net if we have allocated data, 4G or 5Gs or whatever gigs we have until for the different phone plan, right? The plans. But of course, if it was something that it's radio waves, even the calls, there's always connecting to the closest lines, and sometimes the lines can be very different from each other, meaning that it could be 3G, 4G, and 5G, so it's also a variable. Cell phones are connecting at all times. The phones are circulating with the radio waves. Fundamentally, they're basically radio waves. So radio waves are different gigahertz. The different gigahertz. So those different gigahertz, of course, what we have now is to be correlated with the gigahertz, right? So, for example, all phones. I mean, I don't know too much about it. In a parallel life, I do, but it's not something that I really know too much. I just know more theory, to be honest, right? I know my math. I'm no Claude Stefano Dobleja, but I know my math, right? I know my math, and there's always mathematics everywhere. Do you see it now? So that is the math. For example, this bus, I know it's a hybrid. So this bus will have a certain percentage of gas and electricity that bus will consume. Certain electricity. So of course that bus will have maybe a 50-50 ratio. I don't really know, of course, because it's hard to know. We're going to have to get that information from the SDM. But of course it's something which we have as information, and I got to give a shout out because every time that I pass here by, I just love this. This is really lovely. See? Look at that. Somebody has really talent. So much talent here, Look at that. Really talented, So the talent here lies thereof. We have, of course, to turn our heads here, because, of course, there can, of course, be implementations of the strategies where the cars malfunction, right? The cars malfunction. So, because the cars can malfunction, of course, that there is thunder from the lightning. So math is everywhere, and of course the neurodivergent brain is, of course, how we see the world. So we see the world fundamentally different. I used to come do laundry there for years and years and years. I used to come do laundry mat here. And I go another place because it's smaller and I save some money where I go, but for years I used to come here. Years and years. Thank you, my anonymous friend. I gotta take, of course, the relationship. I gotta take the... Yeah, I used to go there, to the laundromat there for years. I don't know if they changed the machines. That was a while ago, though. I haven't been in a few years, so I don't know if the machines were changed. I don't have no idea. Maybe they were changed, maybe they weren't, but I don't know. It's a beautiful garden. So here in my new neighborhood, and when I say nothing that I will to go back to in my own neighborhood, it's like a while ago, Anyway, so when I say that there's math everywhere, basically mathematics, for example, the math is also the distance and the velocity. You have to include the speed and direction. Speed and direction. For example, of course, the speed plus the direction of a car, because the car can go south, north or east or west, right? North or east or west. So if the car goes east, north or west, it has to be included in the velocity. So if I say velocity, I cannot just give the speed. For example, I can't just say 44 kilometers or 44 miles. I have to say south. I have to say north or northwest. 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 Or northwest. Or whatever the case may be. See, there's branches there. You see those branches? That worries me sometimes, that they can fall, as I discussed in the video. Like those branches, when it's stormy, kind of worrisome that sometimes there will be branches that will fall, these big trees. If it's stormy, yeah, even here they fall. Hey? Yeah, it's even here. Look at that website. That's worrisome. See, look. Those ones are dull. Yeah, this is also Publik, what I just said. So you gotta be careful too in the storms, this is more of a safety for the children and the youth, but I see another one. Oh yeah, this looks like it was just not long ago, but because the storm's supposed to come, so it worries me for the citizens. The cars, we can repair whatever, but it could be a problem for others, for others who might. Yeah, yes, see, that's what I say always. Gotta be careful always and be prudent, and not just on the mountain as I go. And there's also the math of the potential falling branches. The more branches a tree has, and the thinner they are, or the more damaged they are, the more potentially for them to fall, right, during a storm. So it would be to assess by the differences of the tree. See, like that branch, what I was saying, that branch is actually fallen, right? Almost fallen, and if it's just gonna be a wind that's gonna go in a certain direction, the direction of the wind can propel it for it to be propelled on the ground here. See, so that one I would actually cut because that one looks dangerous. That one actually bring down. Oh, that's why we need the dragon army. See, for these events also, because this is a big tree here. It's stormy and windy, and already there's some of them cracked. Could come, or the children can come, and there's a high residential area. So this is more applied mathematics. That's why when I say math is everywhere, we would actually have to check the trees, how big they are, and the population. And look, there's proof. That's a mortal one though. So that's a mortal one. See, this branch could send somebody to the ER, man. That one's big, eh? This one's big. So, I don't know. That one looks dangerous. That one. Yeah, it's possible, that if there's a storm, and possible that you have falling branches everywhere. Because it's a high residential area, so there's a higher risk, right? The more people there are citizens here, it's a clustered, dense residential neighborhood, so it would have to do a regular assessment of the trees. Oh wow, that one's dangerous, man. See, that one's fallen. You see that one that's dangling? There's the proof. For SSD, security service and defense. We need a dragon arm. You see that one? Look, that one is fallen. That one's just standing on other branches, see? So it fell from above and it's standing on nothing there. See how it's hanging on nothing? That one, there's the proof. So that branch is actually ripped. It cracked from above. That branch cracked from above, and you're just standing on those leaves and those other branches, which is not too solid. So if some children especially come play here on this corner or here, that branch can potentially fall right on them and cause damage. And God is forbid they could go to the ER. That's why we need a dragon army. And this will be assessed regularly here. Look at that. That one can cause some damage. See, it's just hanging on nothing there. See how it's cracked. See the proof? Yeah, that one's a cracked branch. Look. That one's and I gotta get going myself because I gotta get back home before my friend gets back in an hour, I guess. And then I'll see all the branches there that fell. So that would require a special. They'll have for us to go up on us. We'll have to use we'll actually have to use a ladder, right? A proper ladder that's supportive for us to bring that down. But that's dangerous because it's a high residential area. And look at these beautiful flowers. Wow, they're just so gorgeous, clustered here. It's really nice. So even there, as I'm looking at trees, because I got used to it became kind of like instinctual in nature because of the mountain. Because on the mountain, I almost had it myself. On the mountain, right? I almost had it fell on me, and I retrieved a lot of those on the mountain. And of course, it's been quite a journey. But I retrieved a lot from the mountain there, and of course, that's always now when I see bigger trees and when I count the wind and when I say it's a stormy day, I always look to see which ones, of course, have been or have not been damaged. And of course, assessing that one looks like, I'm not sure because I can't really see, but it looks like it has been partly damaged, and that further pressure will, of course, make it fall. Make it fall. See, but again, that one was more dangerous for sure in the other place where we've been. So this is more applied mathematics. This is more applied. This type of mathematics is more applied in connection with the weather as well, because it's not just, well, it's a parse factor that is on a stormy day, you will be more at risk. So if today, if a storm is coming, please, so we need the DGA. That needs to go in the garbage, and some of that, not the garbage, some of that has to be really recycled properly. That's how we got the workers. That's how we got bins, see? We got bins, we got public bins, we got bins that can hold the trash, we can put it in there. I know you ate McDonald's and whatever, but the corporations and the public and the private, we both have a stake. It's not just the individual that needs to, of course, we need to do our part, all of us. Myself, you, us, me, you, them, they, all of us, in the maintenance of the public, because that belongs to all of us. That's a bus shelter, and it belongs to all of us, It belongs to me, to you, and it's public. That's why we need to balance the public and the private in a way that is conducive, to our collective efforts and our individual. Look at this beautiful red. So gorgeous. You little yellows, you know me, I go crazy for yellow flowers there. It's just a gorgeous one. Gotta watch it there because it's the driveway. And so, yeah. I understand people want to eat fast food, and I would eat different fast foods every other day, hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and pizza. That would be something that I would love to do, and it was something which would be facultative thereof. But here's where it goes. See, I'm gonna put mine, show you mine, put it in the trash. If it goes in the trash, you put it in the trash. If it goes in the recycling, it goes in the recycling. And thank God, goddess, for these yellow flowers. They're so gorgeous with the red one intermixed. I just love them here, the clustered. So beautiful, eh? Little tiny, little ones, eh? Yeah, really nice. Really nice. Where's some of the different flowers that you have here and there, and that, of course, show a little bit of that rock and roll. I wonder how much it is now. My anonymous friend on Canada Day yesterday, she had ordered some food, so it was grateful. I had a very good burger, and half of a burger, and some chicken, My only stress now really is financial. Besides financial stress, I'm pretty good, and now I'm gonna get the window of opportunity and, of course, go. And here they can come from that side. If they want to go to have the burger, they're gonna go from one side, and they're gonna cross. And of course, there's always mathematics. The mathematics, of course, is that there's always a consumption and a division. And of course, the consumption will always be intermixed with the minus and the pluses, of which there will be an added kilometers and mileage. For example, this is a segment here, but this segment will kind of manifest for this particular time now, because it's past rush hour really, but it's still ongoing. I guess it's still rush hour in many ways. It's a Thursday, but it's a segment that connects to the main areas, and of course the connection for the main areas, when we expanded with the time zones from the minus and from the plus, then we will see from above that there's thousands and thousands of cars. So every minute, actually, there's thousands of meters that are added, which will be converted. Every 1,000 meters is a kilometer, right? So that will be the conversion that we would have to do. Fundamentally, we will do a conversion from 1,000 meters into 1,000 meters into 1,000 meters becomes a kilometer. So 1,000 meter will become the kilometer, and this will be added because this is just a segment, and that segment will be. I gotta be careful here, my own safety. My anonymous friend, thank you. And of course, that will be, well, if it's just this segment that adds a few cars, that means that the thousands of cars will add to how much? Well, thousands of cars would add to tens of thousands. right? Now the sun's shining. Tens of thousands